The UK has a problem it refuses to talk about out loud. Not a temporary problem, not a cost of living blip. A permanent generational collapse is happening right now in 7 specific towns. Meanwhile, the rest of the country looks away. These are places where life expectancy is shorter, schools are failing, and entire neighbourhoods have been in crisis since before most viewers were born. The government's own data, released October 2025, confirms what residents already know. These 7 towns are not struggling. They are being left behind on purpose, and the people inside them deserve more than silence. Jaywick, Essex. 4 consecutive deprivation cycles at the bottom of England's index. Government data shows Jaywick last on every scale: income, health, education, crime, housing and environment. Life expectancy here is 72.4 years, 14 years below the national average. Food bank use is the highest in the country, with 1,842 visits per 1,000 residents last year. Nearly 40% of homes suffer chronic damp, and overcrowding is routine. Over a quarter of properties have more than 1.5 people per room. The United Nations flagged Jaywick's conditions as a human rights concern in 2018. 8 years and £126 million in regeneration later, broadband dead zones and leaking roofs remain. Council leaders talk about progress. Residents describe exhaustion and broken promises. Blackpool. 7 of England's 10 most deprived neighbourhoods are packed into this single seaside town. Regeneration targets have come and gone, but the numbers keep sliding. Violent crime stands at 12.3 incidents per 1,000 people, more than double the national average. Unemployment is 9.6%, twice the national rate. Levelling up projects ran 18% over budget, failing to deliver promised jobs. Food bank queues are growing. Blackpool ranks in the bottom 5th for transport access, with the nearest intercity rail more than 30 minutes away, Middlesbrough. Nearly half its neighbourhoods sit in England's bottom 5% for deprivation. The town leads in income, education and crime deprivation. Violent crime hit 10.7 incidents per 1,000 last year. In March 2024, a knife attack on the high street left 2 dead and 3 injured, the worst in a decade. Life expectancy trails the rest of the country. Council efforts to curb violence, including patrols and youth programmes, barely shift the numbers. Blackburn with Darwin. In some areas, fewer than 4 in 10 students pass their GCSE exams, compared to the national average of 68%. Unemployment is 10.2%, more than double the national rate. Food bank demand reached 1,210 visits per 1,000 residents. The textile mills are gone. Nothing has been replaced. Housing is old, cold and crowded. Services are stretched thin. These are postcodes, not statistics. People live inside them. Hartlepool. The numbers here are not just bad. They are the worst in the country for jobs. The Index of Multiple Deprivation 2025 puts Hartlepool at the top of England's employment deprivation scale, with a 28% long-term unemployment rate. That is the highest of any town on this list. The story is a timeline of loss. 3,500 jobs vanished when the steelworks closed in 2010, another 800 when the Rossendale call centre downsized in 2014, 1,200 more gone after the Northern manufacturing plant left in 2018. Even the port's logistics hub cut nearly 500 jobs in 2022. Each closure pushed the deprivation score higher, from 21.4 in 2010 to 38.2 in 2025. Former workers talk about sudden redundancy, retraining courses that never led to real jobs, and a community that feels smaller every year. The result is a place where workers become a rumour, not a reality. Bradford. City Ward sits in the bottom decile for deprivation, with education and health among the worst in England. Only 55% of young people here move on to any form of post-16 training or college, compared to a national average of 78%. That means nearly half of Bradford's teenagers are left behind at 16, with nowhere to go but low-wage, short-term work, if they can find it at all. Unemployment in 2025 stands at 9.8%. Food bank demand is relentless. 1,467 visits per 1,000 residents last year. In these streets, the idea of social mobility is a punchline. Teachers describe classrooms where persistent absence is the norm, and community leaders warn that every year more young people leave for Leeds or Manchester, taking hope with them. Hull. The digital divide here is not an abstract problem, it is a daily barrier. Ofcom's 2025 maps show that 22% of Hull's neighbourhoods are broadband, not spots. For small business owners, that means missed orders, lost customers, and an average revenue hit of £150,000 a year. The NHS lists Hull's GP to patient ratio at 1 to 2,100, well above the national target, forcing families to wait weeks for basic care. Public transport is patchy, with few reliable links to jobs outside the city. Food bank queues stretch around the block. In these neighbourhoods, digital exclusion and healthcare delays are not technical glitches. They are facts of daily life, locking people out of opportunity. These are not statistics. These are postcodes, and people live inside them. England's Index of Multiple Deprivation for 2025 does not describe a handful of unlucky towns. It maps a national pattern, one that has barely shifted in a generation. Out of more than 32,800 neighbourhoods, 226 now rank in the bottom decile for 6 or more deprivation domains. That means income, jobs, education, health, crime, housing, and the basic environment have all failed at once. This is not random. 82% of the neighbourhoods at the bottom in 2025 were already there in 2019. The same places, the same outcomes, the same cycle, year after year. 78% of these multiply-deprived neighbourhoods sit in the north of England. The map is clear. The northeast and northwest are blanketed with deep-rooted hardship, while the south appears as scattered pockets. Out of all councils in England, nearly 4 out of 5 now have at least one area in the worst decile. Almost half contain more than one, but the numbers are not spread evenly. The majority of councils with multiple deprived neighbourhoods are northern, coastal, or post-industrial, places where factories shut, new industries never arrived, and the promise of regeneration has faded into background noise. What does this mean for daily life? It means that in these 226 neighbourhoods, the ODDS are stacked against you from birth. Every system, school, health, work, housing delivers less. If you live in one of these postcodes, you are more likely to die younger, leave school with fewer qualifications, depend on food banks, and wait weeks to see a doctor. Broadband may be slow or non-existent. The nearest reliable job could be miles away with no bus service to get you there. These are not isolated failures or the result of local mismanagement. They are the outcome of national choices, fragmented funding, short-term projects, and a refusal to address the roots of deprivation. This is not a temporary crisis. It is a permanent structural collapse. The numbers do not move, the places do not change, and behind every figure is a family, a child, an exhausted parent. These are not statistics. These are postcodes, and people live inside them. Every layer of government claims a piece of the solution, but nobody owns the problem. Councils draft regeneration strategies, Whitehall launches funding rounds, and a swarm of agencies, housing, health, police, education, each operate on separate timelines with separate targets. The result is a maze of overlapping plans, endless meetings, and no single hand on the wheel. Audit after audit finds the same thing: fragmented accountability. When a broadband upgrade in Jaywick stalls, the council blames the telecoms provider, who points to central government, who cites a missing local plan. In Bradford, school improvement funding flows from 3 different departments, none required to report back on long-term impact. In Blackburn, parallel regeneration projects from the Levelling Up Fund and Local Housing Authority run side by side, duplicating efforts and draining budgets. Short-term grant culture makes it worse. Instead of stable funding, towns are trapped in a cycle of competitive micro-grants, £250,000 here, £400,000 there, each with separate application forms, reporting requirements, and deadlines. Projects start, stall and fade before any real change takes root. Treasury reviews confirm that these fragmented pots have failed to shift the deprivation map. The index of multiple deprivation for 2025 looks almost identical to 2019, even after billions of pounds spent. The churn of short-term pilots and headline schemes creates the illusion of action, but on the ground, the same gaps persist: unfinished housing, half-built youth centres, digital not spots, and bus routes that never materialise. No one agency is answerable for the whole picture. When outcomes fail, blame is passed from department to department, from council to contractor. Residents left waiting for promised improvements are told to try again next year or to write another bid. The machinery of the state is designed to avoid taking the fall. The consequence is paralysis, permanent, not accidental. The cycle repeats, the map does not change, and the people in these postcodes pay the price. These are not statistics, these are postcodes, and people live inside them. Right now, the Index of Multiple Deprivation 2025 names these towns, not as outliers, but as warnings. Every statistic here is a postcode where someone wakes up tomorrow. This is not background noise. It is Britain's present tense. These are not statistics, these are postcodes, and people live inside them.